Good morning, everybody. How are you? So nice to have you here for this California Placement Association's webinar. I hope you all received an email from Eventbrite with Elizabeth, our presenter's handout. It should have been a link to the Google Drive to download that. If not, I just put it into the chat, and I'll put it in a few more times as other people join us. She'd like us to have that for today.
This is Elizabeth. It's minor. It's a note-taking sheet. So if you can't get to it, no worries. But if you can, it'll be a good place to share your thoughts with your future self.
So good morning, everybody. Thank you for attending the California Placement Association's monthly webinar. We are really excited to have you here. And I want to give a big shout out right now to Transfer. They are our sponsor for the California Placement Association. They are really cool. They use technology to help with trainings. They use virtual reality goggles and to explore and do hands-on simulation training. I'm going to put their website link in the chat because they just do really cool stuff. So I want to thank, we got Nisha Hill, she's a CPA member here, and we have Carrie on with us. Thank you so much for being here. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to you, Carrie, so you can do introductions.
All right. Well, welcome. Those of you that are already in, I suspect we'll have more adding as we go to. If you've not seen Elisabeth Sanders Park speak in the past, you're in for a great treat. I mean, her breadth of knowledge and what she brings to the table, I think I've been following her for about a decade. So you might be familiar with some of her books. She's got a number of them out there. 6 Reasons You'll Get the Job, Reclaiming Your Mojo is her newest one, which I'm excited to get, but have not seen yet. I have a couple of her other books too here. This is one I actually gave to every team member in the Career Center and my America's Job Center, called No One is Unemployable. And then we have another one, 6 Reasons You'll Get the Job, What Employers Look For, Whether They Know It or Not. So she's got a lot of good stuff out there. She's also received the National Career Development Association's Career Development Practitioner Award, which I don't know how many of you are involved in NCDA, but as a national conference, that's really an outstanding award for achievement. So that's really a wonderful accolade and well-deserved. So bring your questions, bring your energy. Elisabeth is here to really give you some good stuff to help you in your own career development, but really to help your clients to be able to land jobs in this new climate of 2023 and job search and, you know, the ever-changing shifts that we're having in the last few years. So you're in good hands. And Elisabeth, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Carrie. Thank you, Greg. I am Elisabeth Sanders Park. It's a thrill to be here. This is a picture of me because my camera's not working. I did my hair and makeup for you. This is what I look like right now. And I'm very expressive, but you can't see that. Hopefully you will hear it and feel it as I share some exciting ideas with you. If you haven't done it already, hop over to the chat and just share how are you feeling about the session. Give us a number and a phrase or a word, and just be honest. If you're distracted and a 4, that's good to know. If you're 9 or 10 and excited like some of you are, that's great as well. Keep those ideas coming. And we're going to go ahead and jump right in. I want to share with you a 5-step framework from which I'm going to pull these 5 keys. I got to step back and jump into your shoes for a minute and think about if I could just share one key on these 5 important pieces of this journey that we walk with people, what might I share? So I pulled it from this framework. So I'm going to make you do lots of the work today. You're going to get to be in your head and make a notes on the page if you want. If we had a little more time, I'd put you in small groups and let you work together. We don't have it today, so I hope you'll turn your camera on and lean in. I'd love to have you start by doing exactly what's on the slide here, and that is to envision what needs to happen to make this work. There's no one way to do it. There's no right way to do it. It really depends on who walks in the door. But what important steps should be taken if someone's going to get hired or even begin and succeed in a career? What questions might we need to ask? What steps might they need to take? Take a moment, jot down some ideas or not, but picture it and think about that journey. Gather up your thoughts. So I'm going to give you some ideas to play around with on the slide. And can I get a thumbs up from Angela or Nisha or Greg? Okay, y'all can see the slides. Great. So there's 5 pieces on the slide, sort of 5 pieces of a puzzle or a process. This is a very dynamic body of work that we do with individuals. So there's no one best way to do this, but these are 5 common pieces that we encounter on this journey with people. 1, the question of drive, discovering and mobilizing their personal motivation around work and engaging your services and other things. In the middle, we have proof. At some point, we in partnership with them need to unearth and present some evidence that they can actually do the job. And that's evidence that needs to be viewed by the hirer. Up top, search. We're going to help them craft and conduct an individualized, personalized job search strategy. Solutions, identify and resolve issues that could get them screened out, whether they're true or accurate, fair, nice, or even legal. The distractions and sort of big things that could get people screened out, we need to identify and resolve those. Down at the bottom, direction, clarify their career direction, the sort of big picture, and what they're doing next to move toward that big picture. Take a moment, and as it says on the slide, use these 5 pieces and create a process that's useful. First, you gotta what? Then you gotta, you choose. And they are moving pieces. So take a moment, use those keywords, drive, proof, direction, solutions, and search. Put them in an order that makes sense for you. Gather up your thoughts. I'd love to give you more time, but this is the time we have. Anybody want to unmute and just share out using those keywords? What makes sense for you? And what's static and what's sort of moving? I don't know if I can see all the faces. So Greg, can you see somebody who's willing to step up and speak out?
You don't want to raise your hand or you put in the chat? I'll throw mine. I thought search, direction, drive, solutions, and proof, but someone I'm sure has better ideas than me.
It depends on who shows up. But search, direction. What was the third one?
Drive, then solutions, and then proof.
Very good.
Someone else
Anybody have a
share?
different? If even one of your pieces is different, speak up. If you've got quite a different process, we'd love to hear about that too.
Mine is slightly different. I have drive, search, direction, proof, and solutions.
All right, drive, thank you, Ralph. Search, directions, proof, and solutions. Is that what you said? All
Yep.
right, very good. Anyone have a burning desire to share their process as well?
I would say drive, direction, solution, proof, and then search.
All right, thank you. Is it Onisa?
Annika.
Annika, thank you. Thank you, Annika. All right, so we could add pieces to the puzzle. We can all agree that they move around, but these are 5 of the hallmark landmark bits, right? Here's one good way to put them together. You see this on the 1-page handout. If you didn't print it out, no worries, it's very skeletal, but if you did or you can, the link to it is in the chat, so feel free. It's just a 1-pager, but this is on there. The idea here is that you may have heard the saying that luck is a crossroad where preparation meets opportunity. And what is that saying about luck? It's not so lucky. It doesn't just happen. It's preparation plus opportunity, right? We all know people who are prepared. We've got job seekers who are ready to go. They've got so many versions of their resume, it's become a problem. They have interview outfits 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know, they're ready. Tell me about myself, right? They're so prepared, but they don't have the opportunities they need. They're 100% unemployed or underemployed or unhappily employed, and there they will stay until they get fresh, relevant opportunity. We then have clients who encounter an opportunity. They're out and about. They're at a sporting event or at a social event or at an industry event, and boom, an opportunity arises. And suddenly they realize they are talking to somebody who can hire them or connect them to somebody who can hire them, but they are not prepared. They're not in the right headspace. They're not in the right outfit, whatever it may be. So it really is this sweet spot where preparation plus opportunity, it creates luck. It also creates success. Think about that. Success is a crossroads where preparation meets opportunity. And for our candidates, our clients' purposes, landing that job or that better job, getting that connection really is a sweet spot where preparation encounters opportunity. So if we take these 5 pieces, here's one good way to put it together. To start with drive. And if we are trained in career development and looking at the registration list, I think a lot of you all are. I do a lot of work with the workforce system. I do a lot of work with the social services system. Having written No One is Unemployable, I work with drug and alcohol treatment centers and prisons and reentry programs and rescue missions and homeless programs and mental health care providers and areas where people are coming from great difficulty. And often there's a push to get people working quickly. And it's about job start. Many of you, I assume, are trained and I hope committed to the beautiful longevity, the respect of career development. And the difference between job start and career development, one of the differences is job start starts with who's hiring, what's available, what's out there, who's in need, and where can we place you? Career development, of course, starts with the individual. So let's start with them. Drive. Why do you want to work? Who are you? What do you love? Why are you here? What does work need to look like to work for you? What do you need in exchange for the time and talent that you give? What's going to drive you to show up, partner with us, take advantage of our services, risk, try, be honest, and go out there and win yourself a great employment opportunity? Drive. It's a good place to start. Not always the best, but a darn good one most of the time, much of the time. Direction. How often are we working with someone who needs to work now? And when you ask the question, great, I'm here for you. You're in the right place. What are we looking for? And they don't know. I'll do anything or only this one very specific job that may or may not exist in your community anymore. Right? I'll do anything. We need some direction. You can't steer a ship that's not moving. Like the rudder can be moved left and right, but the ship doesn't do anything if it's not moving. So with the drive, we get some forward movement. With direction, we're saying, where are we going? Both in the big picture and the next steps. Now, in our approach, once we have a sense of why they want to work and what they want to do, where they want to do it, the question becomes, can you prove it? Before we go any further, do you have evidence that will allow a hirer, an employer, to say, yes, we choose you, and we're going to pay you 2 to 3 times. We're going to pay 2 to 3 times what we're paying you to hire you. Because if you pay someone $50,000 a year, they don't cost you $50,000 a year. They cost you 100 to 150, maybe more. So do you have proof so that I want to meet you, know more, and take you on? And the proof is not just the evidence, but also the tools that bear that evidence. Before we get any further, as we start to move into opportunities, we want to clear the way. It happens all the time. People who are really well qualified for the job don't get even the first look, let alone the second interview and the final offer because of some issue. And maybe it's legitimate. And maybe if we were employers, we would be distracted by it too, but maybe it's minor, but it's a distraction. So all the big and little things. The whole first part of what we call the hiring process is really all about screening out. The employer is asking themselves, who can we get rid of? And what's wrong with you? Because they can't interview 400 people. They don't want to talk to 88 people. They want to interview a dozen or 15 or 6. So the question is, who can we get rid of? And little things can cast long shadows. So we want to clear the way so that the individual is seen for the talent that they bring without that distraction. There's a lot of ways to overcome barriers and create solutions. I'm going to give you a good tip on it today. And finally, we get into that search. Now, if you put search earlier in the process, obviously these move around a lot. For us, search is actually crafting how they will reach out to interact with employers. So this is once they're in the presence of people who can hire them or introduce them to people who can hire them. Direction is part of the search because we're saying, what are we searching for, right? So there's one good way to put it together. I have a poster, a 1-pager, 8.5 by 11 that you could use as you're sitting with an individual at all levels, whether they're coming out of prison or have experienced some really difficult things that need a lot of extra explaining, or they're finishing up a degree, or they have a pretty decent job, but they don't want to do that anymore. They're looking for something different. All over the spectrum, these 5 steps will work. We bring the questions, they bring the answers. We bring the process, right? The structure, but the reality comes to life when they plug in the details that are true about them today. So if you want the poster, you can email me. I'll put my email. Greg, would you put my email address in the chat? It's Elisabeth with an S, not a Z, at worknetsolutions.com. Just email me with the subject line poster or resources, and I'll send you everything I'm mentioning today here. But that would allow an individual to learn this structure for themselves and try to figure out which boxes can I check and what do I need. Let me just say real quick on this. They may have drive and they may have proof, but they don't want to do that job anymore. So just because they have proof doesn't mean they know direction, right? They might be ready to search. They know everybody in town, get hired immediately, and they don't know if they want to work anymore or right now. So just because they can check off some of the latter boxes doesn't mean that they're all in place. They build on each other, but that poster will help them figure out where they're at and what they need and how you can help them. It's been mentioned that I co-authored these books. Maybe you've heard of them, maybe we've met. I hope to meet you all at one point. But if you want the books, let me know. So my goal here today is, with the rest of our time, to give you sort of a key or a power tip on each of these. Like I said, I'm going to have you do the work. So grab a piece of paper or just close your eyes and imagine. It'd be good if you wrote these down, but you choose. I'd love for you to list 10 or more things that people want to get in life or get away from in life. What do people want to move toward? The positive, the desires, or get away from the negative, the pain in life. I would love it if these didn't have anything to do with work. Keep making your list. I once asked the question in a training, what do your clients really want? And somebody said, oh, a good resume. And I thought, really? That's what they're laying awake at night, fantasizing about. Sometimes we confuse our next step with them for what they really want. So let's stop talking about work for a minute. Let's not stop crafting our grand plans for their life and watch and listen and ask. What lights their eyes up? What makes them angry? Where do they have energy? Sometimes you're meeting with somebody and you're pulling teeth trying to get this conversation going. Then you see them out in the hallway and wow, they're on fire. I mean, they are animated, and energetic, and hilarious, and they didn't change. The conversation changed. So let's start with them. What do they want in life? They want to make someone proud or prove someone wrong or make a difference in the world or make a bunch of money, give it away or spend it on beautiful things. They want to teach or train. They want to have a beautiful home life, make a beautiful home and raise great kids. So take a look at your list, and I want to give you a tip. This is, we could spend an entire day, literally an entire day, on drive, motivation, and fear. I just wrote the book, Reclaim Your Motivation, Your Mojo, which is your motivation for your job and other good things in life. And a lot of us are revisiting this question. Why do I work? Why am I doing all this? This is a lot of work. I'm driving away from my family. It's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. What do I want in exchange? Why do I work? What makes it worth it? We're asking that. America's asking that. Let our clients ask that. So here's a tip on the drive piece. Stop preaching the glories of work. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. I had no idea when I got this job how much time I was going to spend trying to convince people that work is good. You're going to love it. It's great. I worked with a lot of students, and I thought going to get a particular degree or certificate was always a strategy for getting work faster. Come to realize some of my clients would get one, then another, then switch, and now they want this and new job target. Maybe I'll learn to be this. And literally education and training and certification became a way to avoid getting work. If I just keep studying, maybe I never have to go into the workforce. Certainly not all, but I met a couple of people for whom that was true. I was surprised. We don't have time to be surprised. Not everyone's as convinced that this is as exciting as we are. So rather than trying to get people to agree that work is good, stop and listen to what they care about. And then we're going to position work as a vehicle that gets them what they care about. So figure out what makes them go. And I'll give you some extreme examples. I mean, unless it's illegal or unethical or dangerous and you really can't support it, then let it come out to play. I was working with a woman one day trying to figure out what drove her, and I couldn't figure it out just from watching and listening. So I asked her, listen, you know what we do. You went through the orientation. You're familiar with our services. What do you want that we can help you get? And I was all, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, couldn't wait to dig in and help her. And she said, you know what I want? I want to never see you again. She was mandated to come see me. She wasn't happy about seeing me. And I said, great, work can help you do that. All right, then let's roll up our sleeves. Let's make it happen. Then you don't have to see me again. Whatever it is they want in life, there's a real good chance that work can help them get it. Engaging in your services and partnering with you can help them get it. Maybe education and training can help them get it. So Work Plus is the various things you hope that they will invest in. And the idea is figure out what makes them go and then tether the stuff you want them to invest in to that. Help them see how making those investments gets them something they care about. And if there's no connection, then, it's why would they engage and invest? We don't. We rarely invest in things where we see little to no connection to anything we value. But once we see that connection, oh, right. Now there's value in the investment, in the activity. On the handout, there's a prompt for this. If you don't have the handout, no worries. But I'd love for you to just draw the connection. We're going to do this one time here. Choose one thing on your list. So maybe you said what people care about in life is freedom or choice or being influential or making a difference or, raising a great family, whatever you chose, finding a great mate, traveling. Choose one thing from your list of 10 plus. And I want you to just muse about, can work help them get that? Is there even a minor connection? Will coming to take advantage of your services, showing up to your workshop, filling out your paperwork, engaging with you, will job searching help them get that? Will landing the job and being great help them get that? I work with people who are very excited about work. They don't want to have to search to get the work. So they're excited about working. They're just not excited about the job search. So I have to create motivation for the job search because chances are it's not going to just show up magically. So would job searching actively get me out of their life or get them, more travel time? Or you can grab another thing on your list of 10 and play around with, is there a connection? Can the things I'm hoping people will invest in get them this thing they care about? And if there is, let's make that known. And we can tell them the connection. It's a lot more fun to have them figure out the connection together with you. Then so they can take it with them. So if they get derailed or demotivated or overwhelmed or distracted, why should they keep engaging? Because there's something in it for them. That's why. Final thought or lesson on the drive piece. There is a saying in our culture that we're going to light a fire under somebody. Going to light a fire under her. And it sounds like an okay idea, except, this girl is on fire. I'm not sure that's a great idea. I was once doing a training in Spokane, Washington, Union Gospel Ministries of Spokane. And one of the women said that her lesson, it was a deep dive all day long into motivation, fear, drive, all sorts of things. And she said her lesson was that she was going to go back to her clients and rather than lighting a fire under them, which is sort of what she's been trying to do, singing and dancing and trying to be inspirational, which works as long as we're in the room, she decided she was going to figure out, what was that flame within them, that spark, and fan that and help them fan it because they can use work to get what's important to them, just like she's using work to get what's important to her. But what's important to her is not what's important to them necessarily. So let's tend that flame. Again, if you want the poster of the 5 steps, email me at elizabeth@worknetsolutions.com. It's in the chat. And just let me know you want the poster or the resources. So there's our 5 steps. Let's take a stab at the direction piece. Now, if you do career development, if you do career assessments, some of us who work in vocational rehabilitation, we spend a lot of time on the direction piece, assessing who you are and what your capacity is and interests and fascinations and values and type and all sorts of things. Then maybe looking at the market and which sectors are growing and where the opportunities are. We often spend a lot of time on the direction piece. So this may be very familiar to you. For some of us, if we're working in workforce development, if we're working at a temp agency, we don't spend a lot of time on this. So wherever you are on that spectrum, I want to give you one key that I hope will add to your confidence, your competence around this important work that we do. Again, on the page, if you want to make notes, if you don't have the page, grab a sheet of paper and list 10 or more highly transferable job titles. Not a department like HR, it's a department, but HR manager, benefits manager, not, finance, but AP clerk, AR clerk, bookkeeper, collections agent. I'd love for you to think of 10 or more job titles that can be done in almost every field, almost every industry. Classic example would be a receptionist. Every industry uses someone who functions in that role. So if I wanted to be a rock star someday, and I could tell you stories, but we don't have time, about a young woman in Australia who did want to be a rock star. She started by answering phones at a radio station. You want to be a rocket scientist? I used to work in Pasadena, California, near JPL. You want to be a rocket scientist someday, and what you can do is answer phones. Well, you can answer phones at JPL or somewhere in rocket science. Super transferable. It can get you into almost any field or industry. If you're willing, hop over to the chat and just put in there a couple of your highly transferable job titles. I want to give you a visual here. There's a lot packed into this, so pull lessons where you can. We have curriculum and tools for job-seeking individuals at all levels on all of these topics. If you're interested, reach out to me and let me know. These are things you could do with one-on-one coaching, workshops, etc. But for now, just pull ideas from this visual. Look at all those job titles. So lots of customer service, admin assistant. Job developer is a little less transferable, but it's a function, sort of a sales function, liaison function that is common in most industries. HR, bookkeeping. All right, good work. So many job titles. Sometimes when we're together, we play a game called 101 Ways to Start a Career. And we always get to more than 100. So many jobs are present or available in many, many, many industries. So if your clients have any of these skills, even if they don't have everything it takes to do what they want to do down the road, if they've got these skills in their hand, there's a good chance they can get into the industry and start to build their network and their reputation and their experience and their education and move toward that goal or dream. So here is what we call a backwards career path. Whoops, I'm gonna manage the moving a little bit better here. Okay, so the idea here is that we meet individuals where they are today. And if we're serving 60 people, we're meeting them at 60 different points, probably, even if they're all in the same class or seem to be in the same spot, they're individualized. What we're gonna recommend we do with our career development methodology is to identify some dream or goal, a compelling career vision, a dream job. And this is not a fantasy, but it is a mixture of sort of fascinations or interests, plus values, plus the skills that they'd like to see themselves in down the road. A year, 3 years, 5 years, usually no longer than 7. But we do some vision casting, as you very well may do, and that's done through assessment and interaction. We are aware that people can just go get a job because they've got rent to pay, and kids to feed, and classes to pay for. And we call that a survival job because although it may accommodate their immediate needs, it doesn't have a touch with their bigger picture goals. But we want them to go for the big picture dream job as soon as they're ready to do that. In order to get them to dream, we need to then help them see how they get from here to there from there to here, where they might start. So we do some vision casting and very quickly start to sort of fill in that gap in a couple of different ways. Because if there's only one way to get there, that's not honest. There's lots of ways to get there, certainly multiple. So the question is, what jobs might they do between here and being a veterinarian tech, or running that nonprofit they're talking about, or owning their own rig and being a long haul trucker, whatever it may be, being an RN? What are the jobs between here and there? And what sort of education and experience will allow them to walk that journey? Our favorite way to have them do this research, if they're up for it, is to talk to people who actually do the job. So if I want to be a vet tech or I want to run a nonprofit, I would call someone, usually with the help of my coach, to identify and prepare for those phone calls, and talk to someone who does it. And the two questions I'm going to ask once I ask, I'm Elisabeth, I think I'm interested in this. I hear you are a vet tech. Do you have 11 minutes to tell me a little bit about your career story? I always ask for an odd number. I'm a fan of prime numbers. They just kind of stand out. And I want to hear your career story. And often people who enjoy their work will say, yeah, sure, 11 minutes, let's go. Or can you call me back at 3 o'clock? And when they get that 11 minutes or 9 minutes or 13 minutes, to say, I'm curious, before you were an RN or vet tech or CEO or whatever, what education or experience allowed you to make that move? Why did they choose you? What qualified you? What education or experience allowed you to make that move? And I'm curious, what were you doing before that? What was your job before that? What role did you play? What was your title? Write that down. And then what education or experience allowed you to move into that? What makes somebody great at that? Why did they choose you over other people? Right? I'm curious what job you did before that, and what education or experience allowed you to make that move. And before that, what were you doing? And what education or experience allowed you to make that move? So they're just asking those, toggling between those questions. And they're going to, if they talk to half a dozen people, they're going to hear half a dozen journeys. They're going to see the consistencies and the uniquenesses in those journeys. But they're also going to start bumping into jobs where they realize, I can do that right now. Oh, you started in marketing. Oh, you started in clerical work. Oh, you started in sales. Oh, you started in food service. Oh, you started in housekeeping at the hospital, and now you are a radiology technician. I worked with a man who started as a groundskeeper, ended up a radiology technician. But the skills he had in his hands when we met was groundskeeping. His goal was actually pediatrician. He ended up becoming a radiology technician. When they start bumping into these jobs, we call them entry career jobs. Not entry level. The level depends on their capacity, their education. And that entry career job, this is one place they can compete for and win right now that will put them on a path that leads to something they care about. Now, these dream jobs, often it's like having all your freshmen declare their major first day on campus. It could change, right? But it will get them to suit up and show up to class and bump into things that they didn't even know you could get a degree in. It'll get them to suit up and show up in the industry and bump into jobs they didn't even know existed. Like the guy who wanted to be a pediatrician and ended up a radiology technician. Never really thought about radiology tech till he got in there and met a couple cool ones who got there a lot faster than the pediatricians got to their jobs. So pull the ideas that you can from here. Even if we have weeks or months, which is so rare in my work, to explore, assess and explore and discover, and I would take it. There are times when we have days between now and the workshop on next Tuesday. Could you talk to 3 people who do this? Sometimes we have hours, and I've worked with people where we have literally moments. They've just lost their job. They're in I'll do anything mode. The rent is coming. And I say, can you just take a breath? Can I have 4 minutes of sort of your best attention? Give us 4 minutes. Can you dream a little bit? Can you go big for a minute? If you had a magic wand, what have you heard? What do you love? If. And let's backtrack it quickly. Okay, so what skills do you have right now? All right, let's at least go in that direction. Like, if you have moments, there's no excuse not to lift the sights of the client as much as they're willing and able in those moments. So again, here's an activity for you. Choose a dream job. Maybe it's a dream job in your experience, like that you want to have someday, or a client that you're working with, they want to be what? Choose one dream job, a vision down the road, And then take a look at the list that you just made of all those highly transferable jobs. Can you identify at least 3 of them that would put them in a company, in the field, in the industry, on a path to that dream job? And it can be extreme. Literally, I worked with a man who wanted to be a pediatrician. He started as a groundskeeper, ended up a radiology tech, as I said. The lesson here is that if we have any sense, the client has any sense of where they'd like to be down the road, or one thing they might like to do down the road, and we and they have a sense of the skills they hold in their hands right now, there's a good chance they can get on the path, and their next job could be a career move if it leads to something that they want. And again, the dream may change, but that's okay. That's a quality problem to have. Before we go any further, I'd love to just have you jump over to the chat and share one cool thing. Sorry, I'm trying to type in real time. That you've already gotten from our time together. A word, a phrase, an idea, a visual, a new question to ask, a new way of thinking. Dream big. Anyone else want to share one cool thing you've already gotten from our session? Cool, Rosie. It's a good basic framework. That's a good order to start with, and they'll move around depending on who we're working with. Annika, I think, also had the same order. Somebody. Yeah, work as a vehicle. Where do they want to go? It only has value if we know where they want to go and it can get them there. All right, thank you, Ralph, for that. There's our framework. Let's look at the proof piece. We often spend a lot of time helping people prove they can do the job. Mining that proof and then presenting that proof in resumes and online applications and LinkedIn profiles. And I'm involved with the career thought leaders, and there's several associations where people are spending lots of time on resumes and LinkedIn profiles and presenting that proof. It's a big part of our work. So let's dive in. Again, on your page, 10 plus things if you're willing. When you're the employer, so maybe you've been an employer, maybe you've led a team, you directed an operation, owned a company, run a department. When you're the employer, what do you want? Can you list 10 or more things that you want in anyone you hire for any job? What do you want to be true of anyone you hire, regardless of job title? You might choose a specific job, especially if you tend to work with candidates who are going into particular industries or types of work. Maybe grab a known quantity job. And what are 3 additional things that you'd want for that job? But put that employer hat on. So it is imperative that a candidate prove that they can meet the employer's needs, that they have enough of what it takes to consider for the next interview, or the offer, etc. Yep. Many of us need training, but enough to be considered. So there are 4 ways that we recommend candidates prove they have it. I'll rattle them off, but I'm only going to treat one today. One is stories and examples, 30 to 90-second stories that are targeted to the employer need, that paint a word picture that show the candidate can do it without wandering into concerning territory. Stories and examples. 2 is references or referrals, having somebody the employer trusts speak on behalf of the candidate. A 3rd one is facts. We call them quantified selling points, but they're the bits of boiled down truth that are generally quantified. In my last job, I saved my employer 11% in the first 6 weeks because all that good stuff that we spend a lot of time helping people figure out. But here's the 4th one, and it might be my favorite. It is demonstrate. Help your candidates demonstrate that they have what it takes to do the job, that they naturally bring what the job requires. It's really hard to argue with obvious visible proof. And let's say they need to be friendly. They can just be friendly in the interview. They can be friendly in the midst of the job search process. If they need to be detail-oriented, if they need to be precise or creative, if they need to be physically fit and strong, if they need to be a great learner, if they need to know medical vocabulary or XYZ procedure, such and such a technology. The question becomes, is there a way to have them literally do it in the midst of their job search? Because if they do it, it is actions speak louder than words. It is hard not to want to hire someone who can clearly do the job because they're doing it in front of me. And if they say they can do it, but it doesn't show up in their behavior, it's almost unrecoverable. If I say, in fact, I interviewed a woman once who was talking about how she's so great with people, has a great memory for people. And I said, tell me about our front desk receptionist. And she said, the blonde one? I said, she's not blonde. Didn't remember her name. Remembered very little about her. I thought, I don't care what stories you're going to tell me about how great you are with people if you can't remember anything about the human that you just interacted with. So if they say they're good at it, purport to be good at it, but it doesn't show up consistently in their behavior, it's very damaging. So I want to recommend that we strategically help people demonstrate that they are the job. I only ever hear cops on TV say, I am the job, but be the job. I like the idea. I'll let you read what's on the slide if you want to there. Here's what I like to do. And I think it's probably in the exercise, right? Yes. I like to help an individual identify the top needs an employer has for someone who's ideal for the job they want, then take each one and say, how are you going to demonstrate this in the midst of your interactions? Through an email, on a phone call, as you show up as a customer or wander by at a hiring event, go to have lunch with a colleague who works there, the interview, the charity event where you bump into somebody who, in every possible interaction, on paper, over the phone, in person, social media, online, how are you going to consistently demonstrate that you bring this? So on your page, choose one thing that you wrote. You're the employer. What's one thing you want? And I want you to figure out 2 ways that a candidate could literally do that in the midst of their job search. Some of them are so easy. Others got to be a little more creative. I want to hear all your stories and the connections that you're making. It is not in our timetable today. But the thought here is, and this is not something we do for clients or near them, we do this with them and teach them to do it for themselves. My hope is that there's really no reason why a candidate who gets to partner with you shouldn't list everything the employer needs to know about them to see that they are good enough, maybe even ideal for this job. And to strategically, proactively say, here's how and when I'm going to make sure that this is undeniable. And maybe they've never been paid to do it before. Maybe they've never been trained to do it before. But if they bring it and the employer needs it, let's let that shine. I think sometimes we limit our proof to verifiable, legal, paid employment and very legitimate seeming education. And the truth is, some of the things that make us really good at what we do don't come from those sources. They come from difficulties we've overcome, the fact that we're the oldest of 8 or the youngest of 4, a mother of, a father of, all sorts of our hobbies, our volunteering, our natural talents and skills. My husband and I were talking yesterday about something he's so good at. He's like, I can't believe anybody is impressed by this. I said, you're so good at it, you don't even realize that the rest of us can't do it. You don't think it's a skill because it comes so naturally. It's amazing. He's never been paid to do that. All right, we could spend days on each of these. Bottom line on this particular key for proof. There's our steps. Let's take a look at solutions. If you've ever trained under me before, there's a good chance our focus was on solutions, identifying and overcoming barriers to employment. Having written No One is Unemployable, this is a topic I continue to teach all over the world, actually. No one is unemployable and every barrier can be overcome. All right, so let's again put our employer hats on a little bit. Maybe put your job seeker hat on, your client hat a little bit, but list 10 things that keep people from getting the job, but also from even seeking the work. Maybe they're seeking like a mad person, but no interviews. They're getting interviews, but they're not getting hired. They're getting hired, but they keep losing the job. Oh, they keep the job and they never move ahead. 10 plus barriers to employment or job search, promotion, etc. I know that you can list more than 10. So we have a strategy by which we catch everything, but the tip I'm sharing with you today is how to remove those screen outs. We call them screen outs, we call them barriers, you might call them distractions. You know, you choose language that works for you and your clients. But this is a toolbox. And our experience is that every barrier can be overcome. It doesn't mean I can wave away 40 pounds or give you a degree you don't have, or, you know, expunge your criminal, record, or, give you experience that you don't have. You don't want lying on the resume like we're seeing in the media so much. It has to be legit. But it does mean that whatever your client's going through, there is a way to either reduce it or remove the distraction that it is for employers. We also know that whatever your client's facing, there's people in the US workforce who bring that and then some. It takes all kinds. So imagine, choose something from your list and imagine using these 5 tools to overcome it. One option is to change the job target. Rather than changing anything about the client, just change the job they're going for so it's a non-issue or even a plus. One employer's barrier is another employer's non-issue. It's another employer's, oh yeah, I'd love to have somebody who's had that experience and overcome it. Learning a new skill, and you may be teaching people vocational skills, but this is also how to look in the camera for a Zoom interview, and how to dress for success, and how to follow up after an interview, and how to a lot of those things that are job search and marketing skills. Even anger management and being on time and crafting a good email. Access a resource. Maybe a barrier could be overcome if someone, had access to a different wardrobe of clothing, or maybe needed some dental work or some counseling or a bus pass or a gas card or something. I think we're pretty familiar with that one. Sometimes our stinking thinking is getting in our own way. No one's ever going to hire me. There's no good jobs out there. People don't hire people like me. I'm never gonna, I'm too old, I'm too young, I'm too this, I'm too that. They don't need the employer to screen them out because they're screening themselves out. And until their thinking adjusts, they're gonna stay stuck. I'll give you a one-liner on that. We could again spend a whole day on it, but in terms of helping people adjust their outlook, if they have an outcome that they cannot get with their current outlook, they can keep one or the other, but they can't have both. If they want to be working by December and they think no one's hiring, they can't have it both ways. Either they're working by December or no one's hiring. So you're going to notice the disconnect between an outcome they have and an outlook they have, and just ask them, which is more important? Which do you want to hang on to? And they say, well, I really need to be working by December. Well, then we're going to have to challenge. You're going to have to challenge this outlook, because this is cutting you off of the knees. Are you saying no one gets hired? Well, what are they saying to themselves? How can you challenge and adjust that outlook? And then there are times, I'm going to skip over that grayed out one, where we can't change. I mean, we can change a job target. They can learn a skill. We can get a resource. They can change their thinking, but it's going to show up either in their history or when they show up in person or over the phone. The employer is going to become aware of, this problem, gaps in employment. Maybe they had an anger problem. Now they've gone through counseling. They are cool as a cucumber, would never suspect, but you look at their work history and they've been fired twice for fighting. So something that shows up requires a good answer. Can't get into the mechanics of those today, but what I want you to do, and I'll keep this up here in just a moment, is to grab something from your list of things that you would want or that would distract you if you're the employer, these barriers to employment that you listed. Grab one of them and just imagine, could it be overcome by one or more of these tools? If you change a job target, would it be overcome? Yeah. If you crafted a good answer with the client so they could explain it, could that overcome it? Yeah. Take a look at how these tools might help you and your clients partner to overcome those barriers. There is a chapter in the book, The 6 Reasons You'll Get the Job, on each of these tools, including changing the employer's perception about people like me. So if you've got that book or want it, it's a good place to go for a deeper dive on each of these. And No One is Unemployable is full of solutions using these tools. All right. Hopefully you're seeing how that toolbox can serve you and your clients well. I will say, you may have, imagine you have 3 candidates that you're working with. They all had the same issue, literally they're the same age or the same gap in work history or the same criminal background or the same mindset. there's a good chance they're going to want to overcome it in different ways. Just because they have that doesn't mean you need to use this tool. Right? The tools you use depend on which ones will satisfy the employer. There's always more than one that will, and which one the client's willing to embrace and use. If you've ever accessed a resource that they never used, you know what I'm talking about. If you've ever helped them craft a good answer that they never said outside your presence because they didn't think they should have to explain, or they thought no one was hiring anyhow. Got to meet them where they're at. And the best solution tools to use are the ones that will satisfy the employers, but also will be embraced by and used by the client. So same issue, different tools, depending on the client. Every barrier can be overcome if we're thinking like the employer and getting creative. We do run a course called Career Ninja. We have one starting February 14th. It's 5 sessions, 3 hours each, highly interactive, highly applied, and each session focuses on one of these 5 pieces. If you're interested, let me know. We'd love to have you. We could do an in-house course also for your team if you want to. Can you remember what this stands for without looking? 5 steps. In one good order: drive, direction, proof, solutions, and search. All right, last thought on search. This is a big one. The job search is changing a lot. Turns out that what really works is pretty classic in many ways, but we have to remain aware and observant and creative with our clients. Let's go ahead and do what's on the page. I don't have it on the slides, so actually let me do this quickly. I want you to picture how you're teaching people to job search. What are we recommending? What resources are we giving them? What advice? And then I want you to think about how you actually job search. If you lost your job today and had to start searching, say on Monday, what would you do? Would you do what you're teaching your clients to do? If so, good. I hope you're clever and you're teaching them to be clever. Many of us are not. We're teaching people to job search in a way that that we would not. That makes it a little bit easier for us to sort of monitor and track their activity, but less likely that they're actually going to get to decision makers. Raise your hand if you've ever gotten an interview before you submitted an application or resume. Many of us have, right? Yeah. And if you can, they can. But are we teaching them how to do that? Or are we teaching them how to obey the rules of screen out? Raise your hand if you've ever gotten a job offer before you filled out an application or resume. Yeah. Are we teaching them how to do that? The book, The 6 Reasons You'll Get the Job, is all about side doors, the hidden market, getting directly to decision makers and proving you'd be great while your competition kind of waits in the lobby, obeying the rules. So let's teach our job seekers to search the way that we do. I literally work with systems that have to do it both ways. They have to have people job search a certain way because it's monitorable and trackable and reportable and fundable. But then they also have their clients do it would actually work, which is to pick up the phone or get out in the community or go, I don't like to use the word network because it's so overused, but connect with people who can connect them to people who can, or go in as a customer or volunteer somewhere, or get involved in a charity event or show up here, you know, all that hidden market side dooring. One day I was talking to a young man about his job search, and I was recommending all these sort of side doors and hidden market. You could do this. Do you know anyone who works there? Go have lunch with him and have him introduce you. And I mean, this man, he was just a guy in the grocery line. He wasn't even an official client. But he said, lady, I mean, you can do all that, but I can't do all that. He was just filling out applications. I had him start telling me stories about the jobs that he had done in the past and how he got them. And it turns out he'd actually never gotten a job except his first job when he was like 16. He'd never gotten a job with applications and resumes. He'd only ever gotten them through the hidden market and side doors and networking and showing up and being right time, right place, right? Preparation plus opportunity, luck. And I said, you've only ever done this. Why are you telling me you can't do it now? This is how you've always found work. And you know what he said? You're right, but I didn't mean to. I wasn't meaning to. And something about being intentional about using the hidden market and side doors feels uncomfortable, but it can be done. It can be taught. So I want you to just look at how you're teaching people to job search. I challenge you to do more of teaching them to do what many of us do for ourselves, and to stop obeying the rules of the screen out process. What the employer tells us to do, submit your resume and wait, go home and wait. That's not how they hire. That's how they crowd control all the people they don't want to deal with while they find the right ones. If your client's the right one, get them there. All right, there's our 5 steps. There's so much more. And I know you could all share stories and examples and awesomeness that we can learn from if we had more time. But I've tried to give you one key to unlock some success for each of those. If you're willing to share in the chat one lesson you're taking from this, and maybe one commitment that you'll make. What did you learn or realize? And what are you going to do with it? I'm going to let you play in the chat and share your ideas. And with that, I will hand it back to Greg. So please share one lesson and one commitment if you're willing. Email me at elizabeth@worknetsolutions.com if you want the poster, if you're interested in the books, if you're interested in Career Ninja. If I can support you or encourage you in any way, do not hesitate to reach out to me. It's why I'm here. Thanks so much.
Elizabeth, it was awesome. So much just hit home, and I was nodding the whole time, yes, it all hit. So thank you so much for presenting today. It was amazing. Your email is in the chat. Feel free to put it in there one more time so people can reach out to you. Thank you for offering the poster. That's super awesome. And you have a ton of good books. I know you came highly well recommended. I do want to take this last minute because I don't want to go to your folks' lunch period. We have our conference coming up. Well, if you loved Elizabeth, please sign up for next month's webinar. It's going to be Eric Kramer. He turns, it's active interviewing. He's turned the whole interviewing process upside down. I'm super excited to hear about this because I know nothing about it, but everybody has to interview, and it's such a, so many people have trouble with it. So I'm really excited about that. Our state conference is coming up March 1st through 3rd. Go to calplacement.org, our website. You can find the links there to register for our webinars and the state conference. It's going to be 3 days. We always have so much fun. You will meet so many new people. I want to thank all of you for coming. Yes, Elizabeth is definitely a rock star. So I look forward to seeing all of you next month. I hope you'll sign up for the conference. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions about either one. You are all welcome to stay on if you have questions for Elizabeth.
Yeah, I can stay.
Or any other members. I know also in the chat was our survey. We'd love to get your feedback on today. And if you'd ever love to present, we'd love to have you. So, yeah.
Hi, my name is Luis Sobrevilla, and I work with the Merced County Office of Education, and I'm a proud member of California Placement Association.
Hi, my name is Greg Friedman. I work with Merced County Office of Education. I'm a proud member of the CPA Northern Region.
Hi, my name is Denise Crawford, and I work at Bakersfield College, and I'm a proud member of the California Placement Association Central Region.
Hi, I'm Rosalinda Rivas, and I'm a proud member of the California Placement Association.